Alright guys, Lumpy here with another analysis type video of one of these House Party 5v5 rank in-houses. As you can see, I'm using a replay system, not any recording of a Twitch stream or YouTube video, so I don't have access to live pick and bans, but I'm going to block these off and try and show you one by one what's picked, why they're picked, or why other things are not picked, and try and walk through the thought process of both teams. So first off, the bans. The bans are fairly standard. So blue side bans Gangplank, Fiora, and Darius. Red team's bans, however, are a little more surprising. We ban Garen, and then we ban Yasuo and Kalista, presumably to target ban some of the members of blue team, which you will see in a bit, but they're blocked off because they're so close to the champion portraits. So blue team starts off the pick ban process by first picking a LeBlanc. Now this goes on to Amelia LeBlanc bot, hardcore LeBlanc main, and is really skilled in the champion. And LeBlanc, she's very strong because of her assassination potential and also her pick potential. I do feel personally that she's sort of a one-dimensional champion in that that's really all she has, and if she can't pull off a pick or an assassination, she isn't as useful. But with an experienced player like Amelia, a lot of things are possible. So I guess I would say that as a first pick, it's surprising. I don't think it's a common first pick, but with someone who mains a champion like that, I think it's totally fine. We respond by picking up Nasus and Morgana. So Nasus obviously is a very, very strong late game pick. I think the thought process is if LeBlanc is looking to burst people, we have Nasus, who's big and can go for the rest of her team and be very, very tough to deal with. And also we have Morgana. Now I think Morgana and Nasus are a very underrated pair of champions, because Nasus, one of his major weaknesses is his ability to be kited. This is actually one of the things LeBlanc can do very well against someone like Nasus, is to keep the chains on him so that Nasus actually can't get to her team, assuming LeBlanc wants to peel. And Morgana with her Black Shield can actually mitigate a lot of the extent to which Nasus can be kited. So I think it's a good pair of picks. Morgana also, with her Black Shield, can help other people survive LeBlanc's assassinations or picks, and is, generally speaking, a pretty good defensive champion. Now, blue team responds by picking up Nocturne and Corki. I think this is interesting because with a champion like Corki in the bot lane and Nocturne in the jungle, I think there's an extent to which blue team gives up the late game. Because with Nasus already on the board, and Corki is the AD carry, obviously a very, very powerful champion in the mid game when he's spiking with his Triforce and his big early items, is not going to last in the game against someone like Nasus. However, they do have like very big snowball potential. Nocturne, obviously, with his very long distance gap closers, can snowball across the map very effectively. If you coordinate that with the power spikes of Corki, power sporks, his amazing cutlery, and LeBlanc's pick potential, this is actually a very powerful trio of champions to get an early lead and to snowball that lead and to crush red side before they can even get to Nasus' power spike. Because Nasus is not going to really be a huge factor in the time period when blue is executing their Triforce spikes, because either he's going to be in the top lane stacking up, or he's going to TP down to his team fight without really a finished tank item, or maybe just one finished tank item and not that many Q stacks, and the whole game might snowball from there. So already I think that blue team has a very strong pick potential and very strong snowballing. Red team responds in an interesting way. So we pick up Tristana and Thresh. Tristana, she is pretty strong early, but I don't think she's stronger than a Corki. Obviously she dips in the mid game when Corki is strong, but obviously outscales her into the late game once she gets her big items and gets her range. So red team is putting all of their eggs in the late game basket, and then we pick up Thresh, meaning this is a Morgana mid. And we picked it up because Morgana is known as a mid LeBlanc counter. With the wave clear, you can keep LeBlanc shoved in and prevent her from roaming and making crazy plays across the map. And with Morgana Thresh, we think that we have the disengage and the support to survive the mid game and just try and keep them from murdering us all and make it into the late game. Preventing them from murdering us, I think, is really the only win condition that red team has, because generally speaking, this is a pretty weak showing as far as engage is concerned. You only really have Morgana Qs and Thresh hooks to start a fight, maybe a Nasus Wither, but besides that, this 4-man squad is not going to be creating the kinds of fights we want, whereas blue team has that kind of fight initiation in spades, and they round out their comp. Blue team by picking up Janna. Good for disengage, brilliant for keeping the Nasus off the carries. I think that's a really good pick against someone like Nasus who wants to get on top of your face. Hopefully with good Morgana Black Shields you can prevent Janna from absolutely ruining Nasus's day. That's going to be really tough. And Zed. So this actually throws us for a curveball, because we think it's very unlikely it's going to be a Zed top against Nasus. And as you'll see, LeBlanc can teleport. That's not a mid LeBlanc with teleport. This is a top lane LeBlanc. LeBlanc actually goes AD. That's an AD LeBlanc top against the Nasus. Now I talked with Amelia about this after the game, and they explained that LeBlanc top AD functions a lot like AD Nidalee does. You split push a lot. You're very, very annoying in lane, and you're very annoying for Nasus in lane. You can harass him out of lane and hopefully prevent him from stacking up, delaying red team's late game even further. And then you don't need LeBlanc necessarily for assassinations because you have Zed, and you function a bit like a secondary AD carry, who can deal more sustained damage over the course of a fight, obviously being very mobile with her distortions and trying to peel Nasus with her chains. So that was the plan for the LeBlanc. And now we have a actually pretty good snowball and split push comp coming out of blue team, because LeBlanc still does surprising damage in the mid game because she goes Triforce. And this actually gives her like a decent amount of damage. With the W max and with your ults, over the course of a fight, you can actually do pretty good damage. I think more than Tristana does. In fact, when the game ends, spoiler alert, LeBlanc is going to have the most damage to champions in the entire game, I think. Maybe edged out by Tristana, but I'm pretty sure like she definitely has the most on her team. So this AD LeBlanc actually does a surprising amount of work. So it can snowball very effectively off the back of Nocturne and Zed assassinations and LeBlanc's pressure and Corki's power spikes, but can also split push rather well, because Zed can split push and LeBlanc can split push too. Nasus obviously can only be in one of those lanes. So I pick up the Echo because I think that his utility and his disengage is what our team needs to survive until the late game. But already this is a very worrying thing, because I don't think Echo provides the answers that we really need. We either need a hardcore initiation to identify when they 1-3-1 and then go for their 4-man, or I need to commit to disengage on someone like Gragas maybe, and really prevent them from wrecking our shit in the mid game, forgive my French. So if we can get to late game, I think Red Team has a very decent chance. But if not, I think there's very little stopping Blue Team from just running away with this game. So that's how I read it initially. I'm just going to drag these around for a second to put everyone in their place. But a lot is going to hinge on how these lanes operate early. For example, can LeBlanc push Nasus out of lane and shut him down? Because killing Nasus doesn't matter all that much. What you really want to do is prevent him from stacking. Does Zed get ahead of Morgana? If that happens, Morgana trying to push Zed in is all well and good, but Zed can just kill the Morgana. She doesn't really provide that much usefulness in that way. And Zed actually does have a surprising amount of wave clear, because his abilities do a deceptive amount of AoE. Does Nocturne's ganks early, or do Nocturne's ganks early set him ahead? Do they not work out? Can he farm safely to 6? A lot of these questions are going to dictate how this game goes, because if Blue Team gets any edge at all in any of these lanes, I think it's going to be very difficult for Red Team to deal with that. Whereas, if Red Team gets ahead, I think not only is the late game that much closer, but I think every edge Red Team gets in the early game prevents Blue Team from abusing those power spikes in the same way they could in a vacuum. So that's how I read this game so far. Lane matchup wise, it's tough to call. It's tough to call top lane because I'm not as familiar with LeBlanc as a lot of people are. I don't have a really good read for that matchup. I feel like LeBlanc can harass early, but Nasus outscales. I think also once a few ranks in Wither get going, it'll be tough for LeBlanc to really force him out, especially because of all that passive lifesteal. I think if Morgana gets like double Dorns and an early arm guard, she can actually survive this lane decently well, especially after her Zonia. She's going to be tough for Zed to deal with. The big one to watch is going to be bot lane though, probably, because Corki getting ahead of Tristana is something that could plausibly happen, and if it does, that would be real tough. Real tough indeed. So, you're going to start to see this in a second. A problem that's going to plague Red Team is it's actually going to start lagging. lagging pretty bad, actually. Look, see that flay there? He's had like a couple seconds even of lags. He like thought he was here and thought he was flaying Janna for like some auto damage with Corki being off to the side, but actually he's just standing in the bush flaying with vision and taking a bunch of damage. I don't know why it's lagging like this, but yeah, see, he walks all the way up here and starts autoing because he thinks Janna's farther back and has to flash out. Burns the exhaust on the Corki to stay alive and burning his flash, meaning there are no summoners on this Thresh here, meaning this lane is actually really tough for red side, because Corki absolutely has kill pressure, because of just, or not kill pressure necessarily, but has a ton of harass with his Phosphorus Bomb and the Janna shields to really start like pushing these guys out of lane. You can see the kind of harassment LeBlanc also can get down on this Nasus. However, he's got Flask into a ton of pots and is actually farming decently well. So that looks pretty good actually. Hook not landing, Clear Fest in the mid lane. This actually looks okay for us top. Nocturne wards my red, you see, to try and like catch vision of me to figure out my path. Him not seeing me at all tells him that I am backing here, because like there are two real jungle paths early. So he comes, I'll explain in a second, he comes to gank here, the binding misses, but with the black shield she just walks in, nothing he can do about that. But anyway, there are two real jungle paths. Whoa, something just happened here. Alright, I'm gonna rewind that a bit. Okay, so the hook actually lands onto Janna. She flashes the flay though. Corki's pretty low, but because of Janna's shields and damage and whatnot, they're able actually to pick up Tristana for the first blood, although they are able to answer back. This is actually bad for red team because Corki, I think, is stronger in the next 10 or so minutes and is able to spike this Triforce more quickly, particularly because he got first blood. Although, because like what's Tristana going to buy really? She might buy another Doran's Blade, but that's really not going to go for any items, whereas Triforce is built in very small increments, so just getting a kill early and being able to back, like this is way better for Corki because he's actually working towards something, whereas Tristana isn't. Anyway, jungle paths. There are two real paths, like the farm path where you take a Gromp, then blue, then you do Scuttle, then these you back, or the I want to gank where you do Gromp, you do blue, you do red, and then you gank. So him warding there shows him I'm not doing the gank path, meaning he can just get a free gank off and do free pressure without me being able to answer back. I do that though knowing my lanes are relatively safe from Nocturne ganks, because if he's going to be doing that path, then he's going to be nowhere near bot, and so maybe it's going to be top lane, but I don't think that lane has the damage early on to actually deal with this Nasus, considering his life steal and his wither, and Morgana is pretty tough to gank. So I make that choice thinking that his gank wouldn't pay off and I could just farm up. You can see I'm a little ahead of Nocturne, although not really by that much. It's pretty insignificant, to be honest. Just different choices on pathing between two junglers. I think jungle is very interesting, that's why I mean it, so sometimes some of my commentary reveals that. But there's a huge wave here for Nasus. It's going to push in the tower, he can pick all this up, it's going to be very good for him. Also, this wave is pushing towards us, which I think is actually to Tristana's benefit, because she can let that push under the tower and farm relatively safely. The only thing is that her passive on her E makes it difficult for her to actually freeze the wave, meaning it's usually going to be around here, meaning that it's, once Nocturne hits 6, obviously he can gank very often, but also they don't have the safety of their tower, meaning that Corki can poke them down and then he can go all in with his Valk forward, forcing her to rocket jump out and perhaps leaving Thresh exposed. He's coming around for a gank on Morgana, although I'm close enough so that I think I can answer. So if he goes in on this, expect me to follow up. But I don't recall if they do. In fact, I think they don't, because the level 4 Nocturne in this position is not going to get anything off, especially with Black Shield. He's going to come over here and I think just pick up Scuttle Crab. Yeah, just getting that early control of Dragon and making sure no sneaky shenanigans come around. These guys are just farming, farming, farming. So farm-wise, it's actually pretty even. Gold's even. I think them getting first blood versus us is the only reason there's actually a gold difference. Yeah, because farms 2 off, 6 off, 2 off, 1 off. However, this looks pretty bad for us. So he valks forward, we're able to get the bomb off onto Corki, but Nocturne, since he was passing this way to take Scuttle, is able to pick up the Tristana. Even though Thresh is able to pick up this kill here, it's a kill on the Thresh, not on the Tristana, and they're able to pick up 2, with 1 going on to Nocturne, meaning he's a lot closer to 6 than I am, because I've certainly only been farming, although I do manage to come down here way late, of course, but I am going to be able to pick up some of this farm and get closer to my levels, which is good for me, but my team on the whole is pretty behind, because now Corki has Phage, whereas she's got Berserker's Greaves and 2 Dorans. By the way, Nasus is doing actually pretty fine up here. He's stacking well and is able to put pressure on this LeBlanc. Look at her. Basically no health, no mana, kind of has to back, and he can just push it in the tower and back himself. and it'll all be going good. But this bot lane is starting to be a real worry, because Tristana's on Berserker's Greaves, 2 Dorans, whereas he's got a whole Phage. He certainly has more damage than her, and can do a real beating onto her. Tight Yordle-ass. I forget I said that. That was very unprofessional. Anyway, we do see here in the mid lane, though, something I want to highlight, because I'm not sold on whether or not it's a good idea. Morgana opts for the early Large Rod instead of the Seeker's Arm Guard. He's going to get back here, it's very funny. They're both around the same gold amount, but I think you want the Arm Guard because of the armor against a matchup like Zed. Also because Nocturne and Zed do the same damage type, so itemizing against ganks is very easy if you have the Arm Guard. I don't know why there's this weird lag. I hope it goes away. What the heck? Alright, it looks fine now. Anyway, so it's a risky choice to go for this rod. Dark thought it was a good idea. I certainly trust him. I think he's a very smart guy. Maybe I'm a coward, so I like those defensive stats. I'm also a tank player, so I am worried a lot more. But obviously, he wants to go for the Zhonya's to mitigate the Zed's damage. But before he gets to that spike, he's going to be a lot weaker to Zed. And I think that's a real issue because of our team's natural weakness in the mid game already. I think you have to account for that in some ways when you itemize, just to try and be a little more safe with your item choices. But he's doing fine in lane. It doesn't appear to be an issue. It's just something I figured I would note because I'm not a experienced Morgana player or a mid Morgana player or a mid player at all. So perhaps this is the correct choice, but I just wanted to highlight it and see what you guys think about it. Anyway, you do see Nasus. He's down a significant amount in CS, but he's at 99 stacks at 9 minutes. So he's actually over 10 stacks a minute. He's actually way over, because you only really start farming that at 2 minutes in when he's actually spawned. So it's actually 100 stacks in 7 minutes, which is pretty good. Hook onto Janna, gets the explosive shot onto it. She ults him back into a tower. They're able to pick up the Thresh, I think. Plus with the healing on the Monsoon means they don't actually manage to get Janna. They pick up the Thresh, and I think they pick up Tristana, although she might get out. Although what we do see, as a response to this, is Morgana on the bot side. So she's got everything up, and I think she's got the mana to execute. So what happens here? Oh, they pick up Trist. Okay, she just got too close, because she saw the Morgana coming around, and got picked off before she could actually contribute. So what we see here, and there's a fight going on top, and I'll get to that in a second, is we see Morgana, I think, getting a double kill. I don't see how Janna gets out of this. She's gonna Q, maybe? Yep. Okay, so she picks it up. Meanwhile, there's a fight going on top. Alright. Nasus was very surprised by the fact that he died to this. So, there is a gank up top. I'm actually going to go back further. So while all this is going down here, Nocturne 6, he's sitting at tower, and he goes in on that. So this is actually a very interesting gank, but he knows that because of LeBlanc's mobility, they can actually get a decent amount of damage with this. He's unfortunately in tower range, which takes a bunch of damage, has to flash out, although Nasus has been rooted twice by LeBlanc, so he isn't really able to follow. Flashes in for the auto, he flashes away, so she can't actually get her distortion on, but then bam, there's a distortion. Nasus was surprised by this. Nasus was convinced that LeBlanc was maxing Q. The reason why he thought this, okay, one second, do this. Zed just followed Morgana, picked her up, nothing crazy. In the meantime, I knew I couldn't get there in time, so I just picked up this wave mid. Yay, CS. Anyway, he swore that LeBlanc was maxing Q. The reason he thought this was because whenever she Q distortioned, she did it so that the distortion hit at the same time, so you actually couldn't tell whether it was a W max or a Q max LeBlanc. As we can see, obviously, in spectator mode, we know that it's a W max LeBlanc. But also, because of the Sheen, whenever he'd harass with Q, W auto, or just a Q auto, the damage amounts made it seem to Nasus like this was a Q max LeBlanc, so he did not expect the distortion to kill him straight up. Although, of course, he is itemizing pure armor. I think because this is an AD LeBlanc, but AD LeBlanc does a surprising amount of magic damage. Hook on the Corki, some damage. They actually answer back fairly well. It's pretty even trade. But he was just surprised that he died to that. But regardless, they pick up the tower, which is actually very good. A big gold swing, and he's still stacking fairly well. So he's not really a shutdown Nasus, although this not being there is a pretty big risk. So goes in, chains, and there's a fight here. They're just skirmishing about. So I managed to stun Zed. Sark's gonna go down to Zed. I flash for the auto. I pick up the Zed. I ult back out. Jesus. Okay, I'm focused on mid. So he's going to come over here for this ward. I decided to go over there and fight him. I see he doesn't have that much mana. Okay, so I pick up the shield here. Seeing that he has warrior, I know that I can fight him with my base damage because Echo is silly and has crazy base damages, and so I managed to pick up 2 kills there. Anyway, while that was happening, there's a fight down bot. So what happens here is that Corki has been poking Thresh down, so he's actually very low. So even though he lands the Flay, Corki has the confidence to go in, although he's into tower range. Thresh does not manage to live, but the knockback from Tristana, I think, enables her to pick this up. Yeah, she should be able to. So Corki now has 4 kills. He's pretty huge. I think he's going to hit his Triforce rather soon. She's going to jump forward and get a bunch of damage on the Janna, but I don't see her picking this up. She's going to back out. In the meantime, the squabbles mid that end up in me getting 2 kills, although Nasus is going to overextend here and take 2 tower shots. Thinking he could just go under turret and get like a good empowered Q, he actually winds up giving up a kill, which means that very, very soon this LeBlanc and that Corki are going to be hitting their Triforce item spikes, which is actually very, very big. You can see that Corki, he should be, yeah, he didn't really have enough gold to buy anything big, but he's just so close to his Triforce. Once he and LeBlanc finishes that up, it's going to be real tough for us to be in this game. Tristana making use of her Tristana powers and being annoying to this tower, although she's so low on health and mana that she really just has to leave, which allows Corki to like push this in and I think take this tower with Janna's help. Because Janna is a great complement, even to a caster type AD carry like Corki, who a lot of his damage isn't like done to towers. She can still augment that with her shield and allow them to pick this up. That's just going to come here, but I don't really think she can stop them from getting off, and Nocturne's actually in the area, so they might actually be able to dive, although I don't remember if they do. Nasus is just back to stacking. This lane's pushing in his favor, which is great, because it's tough then for LeBlanc to really punish him when he's so far up here. She just opens herself up to so much of me ganking, although she does have fairly good wards here. Echo can go over walls and stuff and go this way, especially with the lane here, so we should be able to deal with LeBlanc, although her mobility makes it tough for Echo to gank. So you can see Nocturne here waiting for, I think, a gank onto this Morgana. It'll probably be off of Zed ulting in, although now she's finished up her Zhonya's, so her ability to be soloed out by Zed is vastly diminished. I still think Zed can do it because of how, like, the items he has. He's got good armor pen and really good CS, so I still think he can be 1v1. It'll just take a lot longer, and that's important because it allows the team to respond, and in like the heat of a team fight, it's less easy for Zed to pull that off. You can see Nocturne still shadowing around, shadowing, he's a shadow, looking for a gank. I'm here just clearing out wards and stuff. Zed's here, Nocturne's here, everyone's here. This is a real party. I don't see Thresh living. I think Nocturne should just kill him. Although he doesn't have vision, actually. There's no blue vision of this area, so they actually have no idea if Thresh is here, unfortunately. But then they see him, and I think he's gonna ult in. They're pinging. They want him to. I guess Nocturne doesn't ult that. Okay, whatever. Nasus is here. He's like, LeBlanc can harass him pretty easily, so he's low, but he's still managing to stack, and I think his sustain is allowing him to stay on the tower. There's a hook here onto Corki. I'm here as well. The ult back isn't enough. Red buff picks up Tristana. We try very, very hard to get this kill onto Nocturne, but because of the Janna heals and the Janna shields, it's actually very difficult. This shield here doesn't stun anyone, and all of a sudden it's 3v2. We just picked up Tristana. Even though I was here, I couldn't disengage in time. This is very bad for us. I think that's just gonna get picked off here. There's not much I can do about it. Even though I get the stun off, I just can't. I'm done out of damage. They're too tanky. I almost pick up Nocturne with his return, but he flashes out. That would have been a kill for me. But I'm just gonna go, and I have to back off. This is very bad because they pick up this tower. I don't see this any way of stopping us. And I think that's gonna give LeBlanc and Corki their Triforce power spikes. And now Nocturne's getting very big too. This is like a 3-1-3 Nocturne. He's got warriors. He's not going for the Devourer builds. And then he's gonna go for a Bork. I do think not going Devour is a fine choice on Nocturne because the CDR really helps him chase, because he's really just enabling snowballing by his team. Okay, Sark's a bit caught out here. He's going for this ward. He's banking on his Black Shield being able to save him, but doesn't quite actually do that. He flashes out. He still gets the bind, but Nocturne going up, flash off of Wumple, picks up Sark, even though he burned pretty much everything except for his Zhonya's, actually, now that I noticed that. But I still think a Warrior is a pretty good choice on Nocturne because it allows him to chase more ults. His abilities are very good for follow-up, both his Fear and his... They're not going to pick up Corki. Both his Fear and his Dustbringer, allowing that chase and that movement speed, is very good. Because it just enables so much with the rest of your team members. Because that's really what Nocturne's on this team for, to enable those snowballs and enable those picks in the mid game. And I think for that, you do want the CDR and the armor pen off of Warrior, and you aren't really banking on Nocturne to do autos and like to carry the team in that regard, because you already have Zed and Corki and LeBlanc to dish out damage. You have Nocturne enabling them to do that kind of thing. So I'm clearing up a bunch of these wards because I figure Dragon's going to be soon, but you have Corki picking up his Triforce, and LeBlanc, who is pretty damn close as well. Nocturne is huge, he's 4-1. As you can see, Thresh is still struggling with lag, but this Nocturne is huge. Is really huge, actually. But once these Triforces are finished, you're going to see a real power spike. You see Nocturne coming around to gank. The huge amount of damage Zed does, even with Zhonya's, he just doesn't even get a chance to proc it off because of how much damage they do. With the armor pen on the Brutalizer and the Warriors, even the Zhonya's itself is just not enough for him to deal. He just doesn't have the health to back it up, and is popped before anything can go off, even through the Black Shield. It wasn't the CC at all that mattered, it was just straight up killing them. Just straight up. So you can see that blue side, though, they're clearing out wards and they're getting vision of the dragon area. The reason they're doing that is because they know they're spiking right now. This is a really strong part of the game for blue side, and they want to use it. They know that Nasus is going to be top. If he TP's down for a fight, he doesn't have the tankiness. Look at him, he's not a very tanky dog. He doesn't have the tankiness to really survive a fight and make a big difference. And so knowing that, and knowing this is a pretty experienced Nasus player, they know he's going to stay in the top lane. So they're trying to bait us into a fight around Dragon. They can win and take Dragon and then snowball the game. So Thresh is moving up here to try and stop them from getting Dragon. I'm here clearing out wards. I'm not ranging up here, so I actually can't prevent them. After Dragon goes down, we see Thresh hook. Okay, so you saw what happened there? I'm going to back it up a bit. Alright. And I'm going to slow it down. So, blue team's doing Dragon. There's this weird thing my spectator does whenever I back it up, that everything glitches around. But anyway, they're doing Dragon, right? Thresh is ranging up to try and contest this. If the rest of our team was with us, this is exactly where Thresh should be. But as you can see, Tristana's way back, I'm way back. They vision, so they know no one's following here. They see Morgana mid, they see Nasus top, clearly not TPing. After a Dragon goes down, you see the Thresh hook. Thresh hook onto Corki is good, but you have Nocturne diving immediately onto Tristana. I'm here, I'm trying to zone these guys with my stun. I'm not going on the Nocturne, I'm just trying to keep these guys from following so they can try and 1v2, but he's so far ahead that she has to jump out. She TPs onto this ward, meaning that all of a sudden we just have to leave. So Thresh is trying to leave, he's probably going to die. I flash, I'm still going to die because of the chain on me, and all the AoE damage picks me up. Morgana gets soloed out by Zed on this side because he's rushed at Last Whisper. That Hourglass is not going to be doing jack as far as surviving goes. So they get exactly what they wanted. They get the Dragon, and they get the teamfight snowball off that. They pick up, it's a 3 for 0 and Dragon. If we pause to look at gold, it's 6k ahead, almost at the 20-minute mark. They clear out our jungle, they take our blue. It's looking real bad. So on our team, I've got the most golds by far, actually. And so does their jungler. The Nocturne is 6-1-4. He's absolutely huge, in addition to Zed, in addition to Corki. So Corki, even though his score line isn't super sexy, it's not like a brilliant KDA, he's got his items, and he's got everything he needs to be a real problem for us. Like, Tristana can't deal with him, not yet anyway. Morgana is really behind. She can't do all the things Morgana wants to do because she can be soloed out. Nocturne, it doesn't matter if I peel the rest of his team because Nocturne's going to go past me, Zed's going to go past me, LeBlanc's going to jump past me. If he wants to, Corki can Valk past me. They can snowball extremely effectively, they can get the picks they want and get the fights they want. So even though I'm really fed, I have a ton of CS, I'm like on par with the solo laners. And jungle creeps are worth way more than like lane minions. Like 1 to 4 jungle monsters is the same as 6 lane minions. So I actually have a ton of CS right now. But that doesn't matter because what I do for a team doesn't matter. So you have these guys scuffling here. I don't know who's gonna win this fight. I think Nasus is gonna like whack him with a Spirit Fire and just kill him. That's probably what I'd do. Yeah, wonk. All right, and then Nocturne comes along and picks him up. So Nasus is actually getting pretty big though. So LeBlanc is able to push against him, able to poke him out, but isn't able to stop him from farming, which is a real problem. You have Thresh ranging up here. He misses the hook because of the Valkyrie and his lag. We're not able to pick anything up. And so this is actually looking really, really bad for red team. Really, really bad. Because 7, 1, and 4 on Nocturne. I have the most gold, but that doesn't matter because my usefulness isn't there against their team. I don't think Echo was a good pick at all against their comp. Like, picking it last, having seen all this stuff, knowing that my extremely telegraphed slow can simply be avoided by all their dudes, not a good pick. I don't think. Although, if we can get it on top of other people, like Morgana or Thresh locking people down, it'd be great. But that's pretty much it. So you have Tristana chasing Zed all the way up from the bot lane. We're actually able to catch Zed over the wall from the Morgana, and we're able to pick him up before anything crazy happens. So we pick him up, although off the back of that, Morgana gets picked off, or Thresh gets picked off. I try and save him. He looks like he survives, but then the LeBlanc jumps and kills him. I E to try and get distance, but then she distortions back, so I jump back to her. Actually, I'll replay this fight so you guys can see really how this happens and slow it down. So you have Tristana. What the heck? Okay, so she's running up here, away from the Zed. Shadows forward for the distance and the chase. You have Stark bind Zed over the wall, right? So this looks great. It looks like a pick for red team. So we see this, we follow up because we know we can burst him down. But they see this and they start walking forward. Nocturne doesn't have his ult, but he's pretty darn close to the fight. LeBlanc's pretty big. She does a surprising amount of stuff. So she jumps forward, she gets the distortion on the Thresh. Like, this is a surprising amount of damage for an AD LeBlanc. I don't think anyone really expected that. Morgana comes in to try and lock these guys down, but the brilliant Morgana ult, prevents her from actually binding anyone. She misses the second bind. He misses the hook. I dash forward to try and get distance onto her, but then she distortions back, so I just jump back towards the fight, meaning I all of a sudden am closer than I thought I would be. I know I'm dead. I try and ult and save myself, but it doesn't have enough distance. I die. In the meantime, Morgana, who had no mana, whose ult was cancelled, is just going to get soloed by this Corki. Nasus is up here farming because that's what he should be doing at this point in the game, and Morgana dies. So that is a 1, 2, 3 for 1 in favor of blue team. And I think they're able to pick up, they gotta pick up at least a couple towers here. So in solo queue, I think a lot of people would start paying Nasus and be like, yo Nasus, why the heck aren't you like bot? But honestly, if he were bot with us, I don't think there's anything he could have done there. He probably just would have died with us. And I think this is smart of Nasus to just stay up here and farm. And I think it was on the rest of red team to take account for that, to not go for these picks, because we're playing as if we've got, like, I don't know, like a Maokai top who's going to TP and join the fight, but that's not what he's going to do. Like, why would he do that? He's just playing his champion wrong if he does that. So good on him. So they pick up a tower here. They rotate top and pick up Nasus, which I think is good, because keeping him down is important, although they aren't really managing to do that because he's still getting his stacks. But the flash Q, that was the Q bug on Nasus. He goes into the Q animation, doesn't actually hit. So he's actually very salty about this, and this disrespect just like made him super on tilt. So we're like tilting hard over here on red team. We're like super pissed. We do manage to pick up a tower though, because Tristana was paying attention to where they were rotating, and she was able to just come back here, push it out, and because Tristana just does so much damage to towers, she's able to pick that up very effectively, and then carry on from there. Now, Thresh is being sneaky over here, trying to get this blue, but honestly, I don't think he's going to do it. Okay, so Thresh gets the blue, and he would just get soloed by Nocturne, except for Morgana was there, although Thresh gets the kill. And then we have Nasus TP here to protect the tower from Zed. I don't think they're going to get a kill here. We're certainly able to chase him off, because the threat of Tristana Nasus is huge. I don't think she's going to be able to kill... Oh my god, totally is. Okay, Jumble just kills him, although with the Wither, I don't see Zed really getting out of this. That's like, he's got full CDR now. Yeah, he just becomes stacks. So 1 for 1 I actually think is better for us because we're starting to scale up, but off the back of that, they're able to pick up Thresh, and then I think pick up Morgana too. Yeah, this is real bad for red team because blue team is doing exactly what they want to be doing. They're snowballing effectively, and they have all the tools they need to deal with Nasus. They have the LeBlanc chains, they have Genos disengage. The only hiccup for blue team could be Morgana black shielding Nasus, but I do think that LeBlanc has enough residual magic damage to eat through that black shield and actually get the damage down. Although once Morgana gets enough AP, of course, that shield's going to become bigger and bigger and tougher to deal with. So at the 23-minute mark, Nasus has, how many? 387. So he's actually farming his stacks ridiculously well, and he's still managing to be somewhat relevant. So even when he has these deaths, he's drawing a good number of blue team up to deal with him, which allows Tristana to do things like pick up mid tower, or pick up bot tower, or that sort of thing. Nocturne's gonna come over here. I think he's just gonna solo dragon at some point. I forget. Anyway, Tristana's up here, making sure this doesn't happen. Zed's here in the mid lane. I'm just clearing this out against him. I know I can't fight him, but I can throw out my Qs and deal with him. The thing is, what blue team isn't doing is they aren't using the split push, right? Or they are trying to, but they're not really managing to execute. Because usually what's happening is Zed's going in one lane, and then Nasus is going to deal with him, and then wherever LeBlanc goes, we just have Tristana go there and deal with him, and then the rest of us clear the ways fairly well. Nocturne solos Dragon. We think we get a pick off on Ajana, but she heals so much that even though we pick her off, Corki manages to flash out of Morgana's Soul Shackles, and she doesn't actually able to pick anyone off. Her Dark Binding misses, which allows Wumble to go in. He Zhonya's, and Thresh moves up, but I don't see, like, there are actually 4 of us here to only 3. So this looks fairly good for us until Nocturne dashes in, does a ton of damage, Wumble goes in, LeBlanc goes in. All of a sudden this is turned into an absolute rout by blue team. They pick up Morgana, pick up Tristana. So I'm actually going to go back a bit to show you the movements of the individual players that allows that to happen. So he goes out. We think he's out of the fight entirely. Even though we pick up Janna, we still think we can get this. LeBlanc sees everything that's going down and immediately starts walking up. It would be easy to stay down here and think that, oh, the fight's so far away, but she walks up immediately. So burning the Zhonyas off of the Zed ult sure saves her life, but it also means she doesn't have that later. Doesn't really matter too much. Dustbringer goes through us, and this is where blue team looks for the turn. So they ping Nocturne ults, and they're able to get Stark almost immediately. Wow, he barely survives. Anyway, LeBlanc and Zed and Nocturne are able to dive past any of the CC I want to try and lay down. Corki comes back from topside where he was chased off to pick up the Morgana. All of a sudden, I have no mana and no health, and so there's nothing I can do about this. I just died too. All of a sudden, that's a 3-for-1, just trading support for mid, AD carry, and jungle, which is a freaking beautiful trade if you're blue side. And that just shows how tough it is to deal with blue team. So we see Nasus and Thresh coming up here. This is the clone, of course. And this in a second is going to show you just how hard LeBlanc's Nasus' life. Wow, that was damage. Anyway, so there's no real way for him to get onto these guys. One chain. He's getting killed. 2 chains, just absolutely putting this dog on a leash, and no bone for you. Nasus just can't get to either of these low health targets and pick him up. Is he still alive? He's gotta be dead. Janna's gonna... yeah, okay, there it is. So actually, that wound up being a 5-for-2 for red side, because Nasus and Thresh went down as well, even though he picked up Nocturne. You can see just how hard it is for Nasus to really get involved in these fights, because of these chains from LeBlanc. Flashes forward, barely gets him. You can see how on tilt red team is, and you can also see how good blue team is at these like skirmishy fights, because they have a lot of really mobile characters that it's just hard to get to and hard to lock down. And for someone like Nasus, whose sole form of like combat movement is walking, and with my extremely telegraphed CC, it's very difficult for me to actually stop them from getting in on fights and to disengage them effectively, but also it's hard for me to chase them. It's hard for me to chase them just because of how telegraphed all my stuff is, how easily they can just avoid it. And so, if we ever try and engage in them, we have very weak engage tools. You only have the Morgana Q and the Thresh Q. They can just retreat back very effectively, and if they ever see an opportunity to turn, they have all the tools they need to turn effectively off of the Nocturne ult and all stuff like that. So we think we see a pick, but then the TP shows up, the Nocturne ult shows up, he has to leave of course, but LeBlanc TP's in, manages to dive effectively, and they're able then to pick up the Nasus on the backside of that. So that was a 2-for-0. Then you have us showing up late. We're pretty much going to be dead. There's a whole bunch of abilities exploding, but all that you really have to know is that Thresh dies, and no one else does. So now that's a 3 for 0. Even though we actually managed to pick up Nocturne on the backside of that, and now we think we can chase. I over-chase, I think, so I have to ult back out. I probably should have stayed in, though, because Tristana starts to go off, she picks up 2 kills, and actually we're able to hold this turret. So I'll just show you how that happened. Like, why did we think we were able to go in, given how poorly that went? So Tristana's up here coming from base, Thresh goes down, but they're all so low, and they're all pretty out of mana. So I managed to pick up a stun onto Nocturne here. I was planning on going out. I see the opportunity to throw this in, so I just do for free damage, but then Tristana shows up. She wants to throw the explosive charge onto the clone, but with all these low health targets, all she needs to do is to pick off one of them to start getting the resets, and that one of them happens to be Nocturne. And so she picks up the reset and is going to jump forward. She flashes out. I'm going to get the slow onto Zed. Almost get the kill onto LeBlanc, but oh my god, so close. With a good couple crits, they're able to pick up Zed, almost LeBlanc. My ult out saves me, but I probably could have stayed in a little bit longer. I'm not sure about that though. And that saves that from being a complete rout. I think we pick up 2 kills for their 1, 2, 3. It's still a 2 for 3 in favor of them. But honestly, we'll take it because we're behind. We want to get to that late game. They're going to pick up this tower here, which absolutely sucks for us. Me and Tristana are just picking up what we can. I'm taking a wave here because she's picking up Scuttle, and we know they're all back in base, so she's not really under threat of that. And I think we're going to try and get Dragon soon. I forget exactly when it comes up. I'm bad. What the heck? Why are they able to do this? Okay, so he just TPs on this tower. Oh, Corki stays to try and burst it down. He doesn't know that that's his home guards. He's able to pick up the Wither with the Black Shield and the landing of the Dark Binding and all the Tormented Soil, just turning Corki into stacks. Really makes the life miserable. But this still, even though Nasus is starting to get pretty big, this still looks real bad. It's a 7k gold lead at a 30-minute mark. Kills are 32 to 17. They've got 4 towers to R3, 2 dragons to R none. And where is the gold distributed? Because it's not just the gold lead, of course, but it's where is the gold. So for us, the most fed member is Tristana. This is huge for us because she's starting to get to her big item spike. She's got her Infinity Edge, she's got her Phantomancer. I think she's working on Last Whisper next, although I don't remember if she goes for Lifesteal first because you don't really see anyone at all on blue team actually getting any armor. It's a very squishy lineup. So you might go for Last Whisper just to guarantee you're doing basically true damage, or you might go for Lifesteal to try and just survive a little bit longer. I forget which one she goes, I guess we'll find out. With the Zeke's, Onshaw is actually very, very good. The second one is me, surprisingly enough. I'm still farming like solo laner out of the jungle. People always say that, this is a bit of a tangent, people always say that junglers are an underfarmed role. On both teams you see the junglers as like very, very wealthy people, and I don't feel like I've not been contributing. I feel like I've been there for a good chunk of the important fights. Although my scoreline doesn't really show it. I guess I actually haven't. I guess I have been skimping on teamfight participation. But hey, if you farm kids, it'll pay off. You get gold. I'm actually pretty tanky right now, which is very, very good. But also we have Nasus. Nasus has a ton of gold, and I think actually, as far as effective stats go, I think Nasus has more than I do because the damage on his Qs are not reflected in his gold amount. Whereas on blue team, you see a very actually good even distribution of gold onto these 4 high damage carries. So each and every one of these people is a profound threat. Even if we can pick off someone with a Dark Binding or a Thresh Hook and like burst them down, even if it's just the LeBlanc, which will be really tough to do because of mobility, or just a Nocturne, which is really tough to do because of his Black Shield, or Zed, which is tough to do because mobility, and Corki the same, tough to do. So all these people are tough to lock down, they're tough to catch, they're very slippery, and even if we do catch one of them, each one of these other members are individually about as powerful. So there's no real single person that we can kill and just win off the back of. Whereas them, if they pick up Tristana or they pick up Nasus, it's going to be very tough for us to actually win anything off the back of that, or protect a tower or protect an inhib, especially with all their dive. So if they pick up even one of these guys, they can just dive a tower and take it. And something that I can't prevent just because of how mobile they are in the face of my very telegraphed disengage. So all in all, this still looks real bad for red side. Although there is some hope in the form of Nasus and Tristana. So she picks up red, she's gonna back. He's still farming. Although this, I think, is a dead Morgana. Actually, no, she lands a Dark Binding, doesn't spell shield it, and she spell shields, or she black shields all the CCs. She just walks right out. Okay, that's good. Me picking up Wolves here, I'm going to back. I think I'm going to finish up my Banshee's Veil, which is good. You have Nasus getting collapsed on here. I think he goes down. I don't see any way Nasus doesn't. He does. Oh my god, that damage. Jesus. But with the fear, why is she walking? Okay, so that ult is just to make absolutely sure he's dead. With the leashes, like all these leashes, that is one dog you take to the pound. He just gets chunked out and is dead. Well, like all the sustained damage on blue team. You see Morgana in the bush, ult, Dark Binding, Q. She actually, and the proc double kills, she flashed, okay, so LeBlanc is still going to pick her up, but that was actually really funny on Morgana. She does a surprising amount of damage when she builds AP, and I think she's going for a Ruby Crystal, obviously Ruby Crystal, I mean Haunting Guys, or a Rylaze, most likely, oh, so it probably is a Rylaze, huh. Okay, interesting. I guess just be sure that she catches people in her ults and pool for as long as she can. But also just for that survivability, to survive the assassinations, is probably the best choice, to be entirely honest. They pick up this tower here, picks up the golems. Us three are rotating around. We see the dragons up in 30 seconds. We're going to try and pick it up, but they got significant pressure on our top side. Corki's roaming mid, although fortunately Shanna can pick this off. But they're pinging onto dragon, or baron rather, and they clearly want it. So we, I think, make a big error in judgment. So we have a significant amount of vision on this bot side jungle. We actually have a full line of vision up this entire side. So we're contesting Zed here. They just pick up this Baron for free. Now, why do they get this for free? They see Nasus here. So they know that if he starts walking down here, they can react immediately. They also have great vision here, here, and here. So if any of us try and go through this jungle, they'll see us immediately, but the big thing they see is they see me here, and they see Tristana here, right? So there's no way we can get across the map to this and deal with it at all, because they've got a Blade of the Ruined King here, and an 80 LeBlanc. And even though she doesn't have a Bork, she does do a good amount of sustained damage. When you're building 80, that's one of the perks you have, that you trade Burst for. You also have Corki showing up, able to do even more sustained damage, Janna just to provide more damage for her teammate. They can pick this up in absolute safety. 100% safety. There's nothing we can do about it. They have vision of all of us. Like, this is a huge misplay by me. We don't have vision of any of them, even though we can see the whole red side jungle, so we must conclude their top side. Nasus comes down just for, like, a very innocuous tri-ward, and just gets absolutely murdered. We try and make up for this by picking off Wumple. He darts around, he gets out because he's dead, but I think a flash auto will pick him up. A flash auto ult, okay. So we're able to pick up one, but they're able to transition this. I don't see any way that we would be able to hold this in him. So Morgana sees this, she rushes over, but the defenses that these minions get when you have Baron makes it very hard for Morgana to clear this wave, because she's so reliant on a static AoE of magic damage to clear this out. I am tunneling on Dragon. I'm just looking here, and I've pathed over, and I don't see this here. Like, we're all on tilt on red side. So they actually pick up this tower for free, and I'm taking a significant amount of poke damage. So is Morgana. There's no way we can hold this at all. So they're just gonna get this inhib for free, and if we're cocky or not careful, they might get a kill as well. You see Thresh come up on the slow it down. You see Thresh come up to Flay. I managed to pick up Mike into the stun. So we're pretty sure we can kill him. It doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, though, because Corki and LeBlanc are still here as well, and it's very tough for us to get onto them. Although I think we should be able to. So she's going to Distortion now. The big thing here is that Janna actually has no mana, so she can't throw a Tornado here, because that would be huge. But then Nasus decides, fuck it, we're going to kill as many of these guys as we can. Because every little thing we can take, we probably should. So Janna, she's got Flash, and so she's probably going to try and path around this way, but Nasus sees that and starts walking this way, so even if she flashed over, she'd still get picked up by Nasus, and most of this TP was just to zone her back anyway. So now he's got presence here. Corki's going to manage to back effectively. This doesn't land. I don't know, I guess we just guessed she was in here. But Zed is able to come over here, pick this up, and prevent any sort of pressure from coming onto this tower, so even though he picked up 2 kills, it was for an inhibitor, so I would not say it was worth it. Although, it's getting later in the game, Tristana is 9-6, she's got her Infinity Edge, Phantom Dance, Last Whisper, and starting to work on her Bloodthirster. She's very scary. He almost has his Triforce Nasus in the top lane, which is also really horrendous. He's got 516 stacks at the 33-minute mark, which is absurd. Nasus is huge. The only thing that... tilting Sark right there with the blue buff take, is if they can peel Nasus. Because they, once again, they have all the tools to do it. It's just going to come down to the Morgana Black Shield and whether or not she can allow him to survive. So you see the NLR coming out. It's probably going to be, yeah, it's definitely going to be a Rowley's there. Rather than a Giant Spell into maybe a Rabadon's. Although, that isn't a bad idea. But then again, the Rylai's is very good on her, surprisingly enough, because you almost guarantee that they're going to be in range for your full ult. So you see Corki and Zed posturing up here, and you see Zed and Janna coming this way, and Nocturne. So they're pincering these guys off here. We're slow to react, but we're trying as best we can. Morgana is going to miss her Shame, but she's still going to get the Nocturne ult off on the Thresh. He's going to flash out and is going to go down to LeBlanc, although the box here was actually huge. Mike actually takes a good amount of damage from the tower. I pick him up, and we're on the chase. In the meantime, Corki and Morgana are dueling here in the mid lane. Corki trying to get the tower, Morgana trying to stop him. We have Nasus coming over here. He's chasing, he is huge. We haven't really seen him fight until we see that. Then we're like, oh shit, Nasus is really huge. We can chase. In the meantime, there's an epic duel here. Okay, I'm gonna watch this first, then go back. The Morgana Corki epic duel. All the outplays. Turn around. Binding within turret range. The outplays are real. In the meantime, we just see the longest chase of all time, which we actually can't follow up on because of all the disengage that Janna and LeBlanc have. However, I don't think we're able to pick up anything onto this Janna, and then we see Zed ult back onto Tristana. If they're able to pick up this, and this is absolutely freaking huge. Not able to take out the Tristana. We're zoning down here. Does she flash or rocket jump for the auto? Does she have flash? She doesn't. She rocket jumps. Explosive shot, auto, okay, so it crits and they're able to pick her up. We're not able to pick up LeBlanc or Janna here. We're able to pick up a couple minions, although it doesn't really matter. Morgana, though, able to hold this is really big, because this is going to push back out, and she can respond and pick these guys up. Whereas Nasus and I are going to go try and pick up this tower down here. One of the huge things about Red Side's combat, I can't believe I didn't notice this until now, is that in the late game, they take structures at a disgusting rate. Tristana obviously is well known as a turret crusher, what with her explosive shot going on the towers, but also Nasus with his Q damage just obliterating a tower in 2 or 3 hits on top of the explosive shot. Oh, it's still slow, I'm so sorry. I can't wait to see. So I'm going over here because I want to pick up the Krugs buff so I can do a big chunk to this tower, but just look at this. This tower is just gone in seconds. So I'm pretty tanky. So I move up here. I'm able to zone these guys. Tristana is able to pick up the Nocturne just because she has the absurd damage and she knows she is heal. So having picked up Nocturne, I forget what okay, so we start backing off. I think that's the safer choice. I didn't remember whether or not we tried to push for this and overstayed or whether or not we left. Because with these two guys, the urge to stay is very powerful, knowing how much damage we can do to a tower. We play it safe, we back off. We have Morgana holding top. We have a very tanky Echo because I'm able to afford all these tank items. I've got like 3.5k health, which is pretty big on someone as stupidly damaging as Echo. His base damage is just so silly. In the meantime, though, we have Thresh caught in the mid lane. He throws the exhaust down, throws the ult down, isn't able to survive. This is actually huge for blue team because Thresh is a significant amount of red disengage. And they see Morgana here. She doesn't have that much mana. Tristana's backing here. Even though she picks up home guards, I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to take this tower because this tower has no health whatsoever. So Morgana could just distortion forward and like Sheen auto attack it, and this tower is just freaking gone. But with Nasus and me frontlining here, they don't want to extend past us to try and get that down. So we're actually able to push them back, surprisingly enough, which is very good for us. But in the meantime, you see Corki and Janna coming down here. And with Janna's shield on the Corkis, they're going to take this down. And this is about as strong in the game as Corki's going to get at level 16 with his Triforce. And we have the Flash Dark Binding onto Janna. This is huge. They're able to pick it up on the Tristana, poking Corki, flanking on the sides. I'm here zoning them off. We actually managed to pick up Janna for free. so which is really big. You have objectives coming up in just over a minute and a half. It's going to see who puts down the vision best, who can take vision best. Because one thing we've done a fairly good job as red side is keeping these defensive wards in our jungle, preventing them from really taking advantage of us, and also clearing them out fairly effectively. If you are interested, you can look at the match history. I'll maybe post that just so you can see and analyze your own statistics, but we actually do a very good job taking these wards out. You have her jumping forward, critting off, and killing the Corki, although going down directly after to Zed. I'm not able to catch Zed, so I give up. Nasus here is a freaking god, and he's able to pretty much 1v3. I come in here to follow him up. I thought on the parallel convergence here because I'm dumb, and I miss it. But you have Morgana coming over here, picking up Nocturne on the side. This is freaking huge as well. These guys are forced to run. With the Shrine here, which none of us we're able to chase, but we don't pick it up, so we're not able to chase. Thresh is actually the one holding this inhibitor. I actually didn't notice this. Props to you, Thresh, for noticing where you should be on the map. Morgana comes here to clear this out, and I think do we take towers? Do we take Baron? Alright, so it looks like we're just going to push this out and try and take this tower. We have vision here and here, but that isn't really the prerequisite ward amount needed for Dragon. You see the defensive wards we've got set up in our jungle. You see the wards we're littering on the sides and behind us, just preventing any kinds of QC flanks. You see Morgana moving up for the tower, but actually taking a good amount of damage. We come over here. We decide to take this Dragon over this Baron, which is a very bad choice. They see Nasus walking this way through the pink ward, so they know we're here and doing it. So they're going to come and try and contest. This is a nail biter, because if we don't get this, we're going to be fucked. So I'm out of mana. LeBlanc comes in here and tries to do some cutesy stuff. I have Smite, so I take it. She goes back out, although they see how low we all are. Low health, low mana, and I'm backing on a ward. So they, seeing this, are able to come over here and take this out. So with the 6 seconds of me backing, we ping on a Baron because we figure they're going to go do it, puts a ward over, we see them. So I'm rushing over as fast as I can. I don't think I can get here in time. These guys certainly cannot. This is another free Dragon for blue side. They're going to look to use this to end the game. They're looking to end the game off of this Dragon, because they absolutely have the combat sense to take it. So we have Nasus go in, Tristana go in. We're not able to... Oh my god, okay. Alright, I need to slow this down and break this down for you. So this is a very surprising and aggressive move coming out of red side, considering they're still down by 6k. So we sweep out their vision, so they don't see Thresh here. We throw the ward over. Nasus TPs. Tristana tries to go for the steal. The hook misses. I go over. So I just try and keep these people off Tristana as best I can. Janna knocks her over the wall and saves her, but also knocks out Nasus, so he can't follow up. Although we are able to pick up Janna. The reason this is big is because she's all of her team's disengaged. Nocturne manages to get out, so even though we put a lot of damage on him, it doesn't really matter. We're able to chase LeBlanc a bit. I'm not sure we're able to get her. But picking up Janna is big, because she's a... Oh my gosh, and we also pick up Zed. So he goes in on Tristana, but because we're all here, we're able to stop him from killing her. So it's actually a 2 for 0, although the 3 who remain have Dragon, or have Baron. It's going to be tough for us to actually deal with this. Thresh goes up a bit. He might die, actually. But the Dark Binding forces her to back off, but the crits kill Thresh. So like 10-10, like this LeBlanc's doing very well. And at the end of the game, we're going to look at damage graphs. But me and Nasus are so tanky. Morgana comes over here, zoning off these guys, while these folks are murdering the tower. Like this tower, oh my god. So all this poking and stuff is able to pick up LeBlanc because she's on the black shield. Then we're barely not able to pick up Nocturne. But with him forced off and the Corki forced off, this is probably going to be an inhib for red team. So all of a sudden, this looks decently good because of just the sheer speed at which Tristana and Nasus can pick up structures. Then we see this wave here, so we know we can pick up this as well. So off of their Baron, we're actually able to snowball and take a good chunk of stuff. So all of a sudden, this looks very bad for blue team. They have to get the absolutely right fight. But then we pick up Nocturne, and so we're able to keep going because of the Dark Bindings. Like, these Dark Bindings are brilliant from Sark. Sark is just carrying his late game fights. Then we pick up this inhibitor, and then we start picking up these minions. Thresh is DCing and reseeing. You have Corki up here. We see him. He's coming to, like, kill this. So us seeing that, we just try and end the game. We have Zed come over here, and he actually successfully 1v1 Tristana. This is huge, meaning we can no longer end the game. We try to, but with the Janna ult and this LeBlanc, we overstay, and we die. We're not able to pick it off. And then LeBlanc, after they clear this out, she instantly TPs here, and is going to come up here and take this inhib. So this game is down to the freaking wire. We have a late game comp who is starting to reach the late game against a comp that can pick very well. Even in the late game, they have so much mobility and so much dive and pick potential that they can kill us if we misposition even slightly, even if we're strong in the late game. If they get a pick onto anyone but me or Nasus, Echo or Nasus, they can just kill us and win the game. And with LeBlanc's mobility, she's just going to take this inhib for free and run out of there. So we still have an exposed base. If we lose a team fight, they win. They have an exposed base. They can turtle well. But if they lose a team fight, they lose too. The only thing is, with Nasus and Tristana and the amount of structure killing ability they have as a pair in the late game, you can see just a little bit of leeway, and we took all of this. 3 towers and 2 inhibs, which is just absurd. It's just absurd in the late game. I actually think it's a very good combo. So, who's gonna win? Actually, let's pause it. Who do you think is gonna win? Let's take a look at gold. So, biggest gold on red team is obviously Tristana. She's got a ton of it. She's finished all of her big items. She has her GA. She is full built. The only way she can be more built is if maybe she traded out her Berserker's Reeves for a Zephyr, which is plausible. She might do that. The second most, I still have more gold than Nasus. Somehow. I don't know how. I guess it's just how much farm I have. I am farming very, very well. And that's translated itself into a very, very tanky Echo. I've got like 1,000 more health than Nasus does. I am a frontliner, and I'm beefy. But, as I've said before, and I've said multiple times, almost all of my CC is very telegraphed and slow to activate. So all these mobile champions on blue side are going to be able to avoid it with relative ease, and just get onto my squishies and kill them. So we're just banking on Tristana's rocket jump, and no flash, but GA to try and survive that as being our only key of winning. And then we have Morgana, who doesn't have a ton of gold, but then again, Morgana doesn't really need a ton of gold, because even as a mid laner, she's generally picked up more for her utility, for her Black Shield enabling other players on the team to really pick up kills, her Dark Binding enabling kills, and her Black Soil, one, reducing the MR, but also just doing a ton of damage in minion waves, and of course her ult being a huge game changer. Whereas on blue side, we see that it's still a fairly even distribution between a lot of high damage squishy people. So LeBlanc's got her Triforce, Shiv, Bloodthirster. She's going for Last Whisper. This is the build you generally see on mages who build AD, just because the mixed stats on Triforce is generally pretty good for them, because you still do weave in your abilities as an AD champion, and the Sheen procs and the AP and all that stuff really allows you to weave that in effectively for your damage output. Then you have the Shiv to just do more movement speed, to keep more mobile, to get the good crits. This is the cheap version of the Phantom Dancer, which you would need if you build AD. You go for the Bloodthirster because I think you kind of have to against a comp like ours. You need the life shield to stay up there in a fight. The only thing I'd say you could swap out for that is maybe a Bork, just to deal with Nasus and to have that slow. It's really the only change. Interesting build you see coming out of Nocturne. You have the Blade of the Rune King, but then the Iceborne and the Randuin's Omen. So he's definitely, and he's still got the wards, he's definitely an enabler. Even though he's very damaging, he's enabling for the rest of his team. The slows, once again, the slows and the CDR to allow his team to follow off the back of his ults and to really snowball. So he's definitely very big. You have Zed, who can kill anyone he sees. It's probably going to be a cleaver, just even scarier. And an almost full build Corki, who's got the Scimitar for the Nasus Wither, or for my stun, or for the bindings. He's very safe. And you have Janna picking up this Ardent Sensor. Props to Crimson Minx, because this is like very intelligent itemization. So when she ults, every member of her team wants attack speed. So this just grants it to them, and they can just go off with that. In addition to being a good disengage for people like Nasus, who definitely want it. So Nasus is big and all, and I neglected to mention this, but his gold amount is effectively a lot higher because of the stack damage. So it's almost as if he's got more gold. How much stack? He's almost got 600 at the 45-minute mark. So this Nasus is very big. It's going to come down to the Black Shield and whether or not she can prevent him from being kited. So here you have red team ridiculously split up. Okay, so Oh my gosh. Okay, I need to slow that down just so you can see what just happened there. So red team split up. You have Thresh over here getting vision. You have us over here getting wolves for some reason. I have no idea why the fuck I'm there. She's getting scuttle? Why? No idea. Anyway, Morgana's here, which is where we all should be. So props to Sark for being where we should be, but also not props because none else of us. I think that was a bait. Oh my god. These shadows right over. Ults, ults. So now Morgana's down. The reason why this is so huge is because you no longer have the black shield for Nasus, allowing him to not be kited. That's really, really bad. So us losing Morgana is huge. I immediately start running back because I'm panicking, but Nasus and Trist are running forward, wanting to fight this, even though there's so many of them here. So Zed backs, which is huge, which I think allows these guys to pick up LeBlanc. Because Justana just crits so hard. And Nasus, combine that with Nasus, and now we just rush the base. This is an exposed Nexus against a Nasus. Corki's trying to back, but there's, I don't think, anything they can do. Because look, he ults, 1 auto. Even though they pick up Triss, 2 autos, the game just ends. The game ends just suddenly. Off the back of them getting a pick. Very weird. So, red team won because they were able to survive until the late game. There was a lot of flack within blue team after the fact about this top LeBlanc pick. I feel like it did do its job decently well. It was able to apply pressure to a side lane such that Nasus alone, even though he could stack up there, couldn't actually force her out, and so she operated a lot like an AD Nidalee in that respect. I don't think blue team executed well enough their split push potential with this AD LeBlanc and the Zed in the mid lane, but I also think that the reason they didn't execute on the 1-3-1 was because they chose instead to try and execute off this mid-game snowball pick comp, which they did do very, very well. They just couldn't seal the deal. That might be because of all these supportive characters we have on red side, preventing these one-sided fights from being absolute wipes. So it would be a 3-for-1 or a 3-for-0 instead of a full ace or something like that, which I do think was good. I think it was partially because Nasus wasn't able to be shut down, and because as the game got later, they never actually started trying to do a 1-3-1. Nasus was able to group with the team and fight with them without having to be elsewhere stopping a split push, so he was able to use his stacks in fights. Because one way of countering Nasus is preventing him from using his stacks on champions, and so keeping him in the side lane is a good effective way of doing that. And also the thought process of LeBlanc as a champion countering Nasus, I do think is valid. If you can keep a chain on him, he just can't get to your team and hit them, so you can kill off this Nasus. I think that the late game just became too overwhelming. Not one specifically because of Tristana and Nasus as a pair just tearing through buildings. You guys remember after the Baron fight, even though they picked up Baron, us picking off a person, we only needed a few seconds at a tower to take it down, and I just don't think blue team was prepared for that. I think they wanted to regroup and then fight as a team, which I do think was their win condition in the team fight, but I just think it wasn't good enough. Also, I really hate doing this because I feel like I'm shooting my own horn, but we had a very, very strong tank line in Nasus and Echo, but not just in our health amounts. We also had the backup of these supportive characters able to enable the tank line to be as protective as we possibly could. Morgana, of course, black shielding Nasus so that he could ignore his being kited, but also I'm a very tanky Echo, and I run around a lot, and I actually have a surprising amount of base damage, especially with this Dead Man's Plate, meaning that I couldn't be ignored. And because I'm farming well, even though my scoreline isn't super sexy, I still have more gold than Nasus or Morgana, because I've just been farming so well. It just became tougher and tougher for blue team to actually deal with our comp. I partially want to say that our team comp just naturally in the late game beat blue team. So I think if you're blue, or in a team comp like blue, I think you have to recognize the ways in which you can execute upon these mid-game style team fights better than you already do. What are the ways you can do that? One way is to be more active vision-wise, to keep more vision on the map, to enable your strong picks forward. Because something red team was doing very well, and it's something I also want to teach if you're trying to play from behind or playing for the late game, is to keep vision in as much of your jungle defensively as possible, but more importantly, deny their vision. Because their vision is what allows them to take good fights on you and to kill you. because you only saw one Sightstone, and honestly the Janna couldn't get too deep into our jungle because this isn't a protective team comp. The way they protect their support is to kill the enemy team if they try and fight your support. So it's very difficult for her to actually get in there and get all the wards, especially if we have strong vision in our own jungle. We know when we can fight the Janna, or when we can safely clear out the wards Janna places without being regressed upon. That's what we were able to do. And because of that, they were prevented from snowballing their ridiculous early lead into an actual victory, because they never really got those full team wipes in places where they were able to then take towers or inhibitors off of that. So if you're playing from ahead, focus on vision control and vision denial to allow you to snowball your team being ahead into picks, into towers. And if you're playing from behind, prevent them from getting that vision and keep vision of your own, so that you can avoid giving them anything more than they've already gotten from you, so you can safely stay in the game and safely make it to the point in the game where you can just win. Because I do think this game reached a point where they just couldn't handle us, where if they left Nasus alone, he would take towers and no one could 1v1 him, and that if they lost even one person in a fight, we would just take it in him. Because that's the case, it's even more critical that you capitalize on that early game lead and on your Triforce spikes, which they were able to do to a decent amount, but not well enough to close out. So pay attention to those win conditions, play for vision, because vision is knowledge and knowledge is power, obviously, and win more games. So I hope you learned something from this. I definitely enjoyed making it, and I hope it's useful for you guys. Good luck.